one of Slate Medina's 12 daughters, Alice was destined to take her place among the hierarchy of the House of Iron. Her gang, the Wasteland Wolves, ranged further from the Spider Points than any of her peers, raiding Ash Waste nomad settlements and bringing in ore trains from as far afield as Guntown and Big Hole. It was Alice's thirst for adventure that was to be her undoing. Out in the wastes, her gang found a pentagrammic casket containing a demonic entity known as the Shiver. The demon ravaged her gang, feasting on their souls and corrupting their flesh until Alice alone remained. It had not counted upon the tenacity of Slate's daughter, however, and when it sought to turn her into its puppet, Alice instead made the demon hers. Alice's victory was not without cost. In taming the demon within, Alice became a possessed creature, half human, half warp-spawn. Her ambition was magnified, and where once she saw a life as an Orlok road boss, she now coveted complete control of the House of Iron. The piteous whispers of the Shiver also taught Alice dark new powers and woke within her a dormant psychic spark. By the time Alice returned to Hive Primus, it was as the master of an outlaw gang of deviants and malcontents bound together by the Shiver's potent telepathic chains. So began Alice's war against the clan houses, one she has been waging ever since. Hello, and welcome back to Wellywood Wargaming. My name is Damon, and in this video I am going to be looking at one of the many hired guns, bounty hunters, hive scum, and dramatis personae in this huge undertaking of doing every single one of them in the game of Necromunda. So if you're into Necromunda, you're probably going to like this a lot. I gave you a little bit of lore there around a character called Alyce Shivver. Now, the lore around Alyce Shiver is that she is an ex-Orlok, one of Slate Medina's many daughters, and as you'll find out, I get into some of his other little daughters and offspring here as well, as Slate Medina himself with his Cyber Mastiff. But for now, we're going to stick with the bad gal of the Underhive, and that is Alyce Shivver. So how good is she in the game, I suppose, is something that we're going to talk about a little bit here. We're going to look at her stats, her weapons, what she can do, and what she brings to your gangs. The first thing, I suppose, that's worth mentioning, in fact, let me just zoom out a little bit here, is that she is of course, only available for outlaws. She's not available for your typical gangs. She can, of course, be with an outlaw Orlok gang, which is quite fluffy. I quite like that. Maybe you could use that gang, or, you could use her as the leader in an outcast gang, perhaps, as well. But stats-wise, let's get into it straight away. We've got a movement of 5, which is average. Everybody tends to have a movement of 5 unless they're Goliaths or they're a bit more tanky and slow. We've also got a weapon skill of 3+ there as well, which is pretty good. It's your standard sort of champion stat, I suppose. We've also got a ballistic skill of 4+, so not too bad there with an average ballistic skill. Strength and toughness 3, wounds 2, initiative 3+, which is slightly better than average, 2 attacks, again, similar sort of stat line to most champions, I suppose, in the game. And the mental stats here are leadership 6, cool 5, which is great, willpower 7+, average, and an intelligence of 6, which is slightly better than average there as well. In terms of weapons, this chick comes with a stub gun with dum-dums, not mind-blowing, and also a fighting knife, so pretty meager on the weapons and equipment there. However, she does come with mesh armor, a respirator, and photo goggles, so she can see in the dark a bit better. She's got respirator and a bit of a save there with a 5+ save there too. So far, nothing particularly great there, I suppose. In terms of skills, a bit of a strange one actually. She comes baked in with Headbutt, which is quite a strange skill. Of course, the new rules in the core rulebook have changed Headbutt. You can now do it on the charge, I believe. Something like that, or it's a simple, I'm not even sure. Headbutt on this chick is kind of weird, but kind of funny at the same time. She's also got True Grit as well. True Grit is one of the better ferocity skills. That means you take less damage and whatnot as well. Now, the main thing that you're going to use this chick for, though, is that she is a psyker. You can find the full rules for her in the Book of Ruin, by the way. But let's get into her psyker stuff. She's possessed by a demon called the Shiver, and that's given her 3 psychic powers here. And they're not amazing. Of course, this character, this hired gun, was created and written and released in a book way before the Book of the Outcast, so we didn't have any of the universal psychic powers in the game to choose from, so we're kind of stuck with some of the ones prior to that, I suppose. 2 of them are telekinesis, one of them is telepathy. So she's a bit of a sort of Jean Grey type of character, I suppose. The first one that she's got is Assail. Now, Assail is a basic action to do. I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but it requires a shoot action. So it is a basic shoot action, and it uses your ballistic skill to do so. Now, when you've got a willpower of 7 up, which is average, you're only pulling this off 50-50, of the time. Plus, you've got an average ballistic skill here. It doesn't really make this power particularly powerful. It's a shame, but it is what it is. But it's basically a shooting attack. You can knock people off stuff. It's quite fun. It's one of the nicer powers, I think. It's quite fluffy, but it does revolve around dice rolls. And when your stats aren't that good for it, means that it's not that great a skill. The other one that she's got is Levitation. This is a continuous effect basic. Again, continuous effect has been buffed a lot, so you can now do it as a free action at the start of your turn to maintain control. But again, with that willpower being average, means that this is not as likely to come off every single time, unless you sort of focus and do it as a basic action and getting +2 to that willpower. Telekinesis basically gives you flight. Levitation basically gives you flight. It means you can move up and down and all around the place. It's quite a fun one. It stops you being pinned, and it also means that you're just flying around, pretty much like a Van Saar surfboard, basically. The last, she gets 3 psychic powers here, as well as her 2 skills, so she's definitely skilled up. The last one is Maddening Visions. Now, this one's pretty cool. It's a basic, and this is a telepathy skill as well, or power, should I say. Nearby enemies find themselves struck by nightmarish apparitions as Alice Shiver becomes a conduit for unfettered warp energy. Until the end phase of this round, make a willpower check for an enemy fighter who ends their turn within 3 inches of Alice Shiver. If the check is failed, the fighter is driven temporarily insane and becomes subject to the insane condition. Great, but with a range of 3 inches, you're kind of relying on people charging you and getting really close to you to do it. So all in all, just to give you a sort of lowdown of what I think of Alice Shiver, she could be really good if she had better stats. So the willpower is kind of a letdown there. For a Psyker anyway, for a weird, she really should have a better willpower. Maybe a 5 up or a 6 up would just make it much more viable, I suppose. But coming with loads of skills and stuff is always fun, I suppose. She's just not really that good. However, she is 165 credits as well. It's not that cheap either. It's kind of average, I guess. But for what she does, I think she's a bit of a rip-off. So for that, I'm going to kind of put her firmly in the tier 3 sort of category, I think, for this one. I can't see getting much use out of her in an actual game. However, if you're playing purely for the narrative and the fluff, then she's really fun. And it's a nice sort of bit of lore around the character as well. Anyway, that's it for Alice Shiver, and that's it for me. Peace out.